A normal life, thriving, with acute bouts of stress. But because of modern living and the way that we work, we are chronically stressed, meaning that we're just having repeated doses of stress without any recovery in between it. And that is the problem, because when we go from acute stress to chronic stress, then we see changes at a biological level that are actually causing us damage and leading us towards disease. And I think one of the things is that we're not really taught how to manage stress. And the problem with it is like, if you learn how to, in terms of burnout, for example, one of the biggest causes of burnout is chronic stress that is not well managed. So how do we go about managing that stress? If we could reduce our stress or manage it, then we would be putting ourselves back into the thrive state. So the problem with stress is that it's the continuous doses of it, and we need to learn ways to kind of manage our stress, reduce it, and so we're not in a chronic stress state and then absolutely causing damage at a biological level.
I love it because that's, I think, something people say, "Oh man, up, you need stress in your life," or it's that moment of don't be silly. Of course, jobs are meant to be stressful. Of course, for the. But I found it interesting, like because you were like me, you were going home hating your life. You were going home drinking and say, at no point did you think taking a day off. But I bet you went in
No,
and played the character of the version
absolutely.
you wanted to be. And I found that I was going in and I was expected to work at evenings, I was expected to work at weekends. Wasn't getting paid for it, wasn't in my contract, but to get the work done. Why do you think we've lived that as a badge of honor? Why do we feel that like our dads want us to do this and expect this from her? Our mom uses this to talk to her friends on the I was about to say in the lodge or whatever, whatever the American things are. Why, we live in a life filled with unrealistic expectations. Why can we not just stop and go, "Hey, look, I need help." Why is there that stigma, especially with guys, to not say, "Look, I'm really struggling here. I'm not living a life I want."
Yeah, I think in terms of why we do it, I think there's this big misconception, which is something that I really challenged in myself and learned through studying other people and some of the highest performers in the world, that there's this misconception that the longer and harder that we work, that the more successful we will be. And I think that's the number one. We kind of feel like it's something we have to put ourselves through in order to be successful. And I think another reason why we do it is we tie our kind of value, our self-worth up in external things, in our job, in the amount of money we make, in our possessions. And so because we've tied our self-worth to those external things, we're pushing ourselves to build those things up so we can feel that we're valuable, that we're worthwhile. So I think there is, number one, that misconception: the longer and harder you work, the more successful you'll be. But that is just not true. Because if it was, then you've got to look at some of the most successful people in the world, and they're not killing themselves like some of us are doing.
Yeah.
Secondly, in terms of dealing with those unrealistic expectations, I think we've got one thing we've got to understand is that when we're trying to fulfill somebody else's expectations, and this is a conversation I really, really had with myself. My dad always wanted me to become a doctor, and I've had a troubled relationship with him throughout my life. And so by me doing what he wanted me to, by me doing what he wanted me to do, I gained some kind of love and some validation and some approval. And that felt good. But what it meant that I had to do was to kind of create a life that was successful according to his definition of success. And at never one point did I define what success meant to me and what that looked like.